G'day guys and gal, I hope you got your favourite beverage in hand because I'm bringing you some tank gameplay on an oversized adult toy launch map. Now this was filmed back in the beta, which wasn't too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I'm glad to bring to you guys another installment of ONLYFARMS Friday. Now normally I would go over the loadout for the tank, but since this is the beta and we had no real loadout, I might just cover the utilities what the tank has as of what they had in the beta. Hopefully we have more choice coming when the game comes out. I'm sure which will be the case. I'll also go over some tips and tricks and what I thought was very useful and the best and most efficient way to move across this map. So let's get into it and sit down and have your beverage in hand so we can have a bit of a Gucci time. P.S. I'm suffering from sleep deprivation right now, so I'll try and do my best to keep up with the quality and standards that I'm. So this tank features the 120mm ball cannon. In the temporal leaks you can see that there's possibly going to be a smooth bore but like Sabo shell, and there's going to be a HE variant, so it looks like this is the default variant that we got from the beta. We also have an LMG, smoke, and with the secondary gunner seat you have a machine gun, grenade launcher, and a proxy scan, which can be very useful. Now the best way I would like to describe this map is it's basically a driving simulator. It's honestly not that bad, as long as you know how to efficiently place yourself on the map so you're constantly in the middle of the action. And for the most part, this middle section that you've seen at the start of this video is pretty much where most of the action will go down, except from B flag and obviously C flag. The gimme flags are generally not contested that much, although that is not to be always the case. There has been a couple of times when I was playing this map the other team would spend the whole entire time trying to back cap, and it is a little bit frustrating because you would get shot in the backside, and if any fundamentals have rubbed off in my teachings, or if you're new here, the one thing you want to make sure always to keep it simple and quick, don't let people get behind you. Don't let them get behind you and you'll have a better time. Now this little section here in the middle here is actually quite great for shutting down the enemy, but do remember there's a tunnel way under here that they can go into and just completely avoid you. But if there's too many people going through that section, it becomes a bit of a bottleneck and then I have to come back up at the top. Hopefully in the full release of this game they have a bit more cover for this middle section here. Also it actually make it a bit more worthwhile pillaring with a tank as well, so not only will it help actually infantry have a bit more cover, but also the tank can kind of like sit in position as well where it can kind of hold down this area here as well, because surprisingly a tank actually can't tank a whole bunch of damage, as you can see here. I back on up because I'm receiving a fair bit of damage, and that's the case. One thing you have to consider as well is on this flag here, there's plenty of angles that infantry can actually really sneak up on you, and even more with the verticality. So this map has this launch kind of like tower, which holds like the missile, I would assume, when it would be actually in there, but that's not in the game, is where all the infantry will be fighting on the B flag, and what they do once they've owned the B flag and there's no one else up there to shoot is they'll jump off and parachute down on top of you, and that's where it gets a little bit hard. If you sit generally a little bit too close to that tower, they can just parachute straight on to you and drop C4 rockets, and it gets really frustrating. It's even frustrating more if you have a gunner that's not too aware of what the surroundings are around him. But in the beta there was a bit of a glitch where the gunner seat actually would not function properly. So every time when the tank would turn its turret, it would actually shake the screen for the gunner, making it extremely hard for them to aim. So I do understand when the gunner couldn't really shoot at anyone if I was moving my turret. So if I was finishing killing all the infantry around me on the ground level and I had a gunner, the best thing I could do is just to lock my turret up so that the infantry in my gunner seat can still fire at the infantry parachuting from above. If you don't have a gunner, it's pretty easy to just seat switch and shoot them down yourself. Another thing you need to consider in this area here, because not only is it a high traffic area for infantry, the attack choppers actually like to use the B tower or the rocket launcher, otherwise known as the oversized adult toy, is a good place for the choppers to actually avoid the lock-ons, and so they'll be kind of using that ducking in and out to use cover correctly. I've seen some also decent pilots have already figured out that dodging some of the lock-on missiles, just flying inside of the Tower B is a good way to get away from them, as well as, you know, pull a little cheeky maneuvers on sneaking up on other choppers. You need to consider this because the main problem with you being in this open area is because since you're such a large target and you can be easily seen, they will focus you. When the little birds, or otherwise known as the night birds now, they'll be more of just an annoying nuisance to you, whereas the actual attack choppers will be the bane of your existence. They will be the thing that you'll die from the most, whereas the night bird will kind of be like, if you're already in a bit of a pickle, that might be the guy that finishes you off with all the rocket salvos that they have under their sleeve. The only way that you're really able to counter the attack chopper, as far as the beta goes, is finding somewhere that you can point your turret up so you can shoot at them. Otherwise you're pretty much screwed and you're going to need some hard cover. And what I mean by hard cover is a position where you can take your tank inside, where the enemy cannot chase you with the aircraft. And there's very few places that you can actually do that. One of them is the tunnel, inside of B flag to a degree, as well as the launch pad behind you to a degree, because the chopper can actually get in there as well. But it would be a very easy shot for you to kill them from those positions. Also, an alternative method would to be follow around where your AA tanks are or other chopper vehicles and air support are. Or if you're generally getting harassed by the gimme flag, it's generally not that common that when you're trying to retake your gimme flag, they're going to have aircraft support in them, because it's just too close to the uncap, and if vehicles are kind of constantly coming out, they're going to be basically running to your team's aircraft constantly, and they'll die really easily. One thing you need to take note of here while quickly you can is this is basically the spawn point for this D flag. So if you feel a bit uncomfortable or there's too many angles for you to watch on the burn there and you have a couple of teammates on the flag, the next thing that you can really do, which is extremely useful, is just sitting around the edge there and you can just shoot all the spawners as they come in. I know it's cheap and dirty kills, but it's efficient and effective. And if you want to be efficient and effective to help your team win the game, you're going to have to do some scummery like that. And one of the other things that surprisingly you don't actually have to worry about at this point, but I'm 100% sure it's going to be fixed on the full game release, is jets. As far as we could see in the beta, they didn't really have any ordnance to deal with ground vehicles, but I do feel like when the game comes out, they will have some kind of thing, like maybe like hydras or a lock-on missile. No idea what the attack chopper is doing, but anyway, something that you're going to have to make sure you take note of. Something else that you're going to have to take note of when the game comes out in the full release. In the beta, there was only 2 heavy vehicles that could spawn in at the given time. As far as I understand, they've doubled that up, so there's 4 tanks per side. I'm not sure how that works with also the call-in vehicles, so we could have some vehicle level to the degree of maybe Silk Road or Gold Mine. Hopefully that doesn't spoil this map, because I actually kind of enjoyed with it having a few less vehicles. It just made it a little bit more less stagnated gameplay, and also from what I understand from my infantry friends, they actually didn't actually mind this map despite it being so large. So they could actually get around without too much of an issue, having to always dodge and evade vehicles. But then I guess you could always make the argument that then the map needs more vehicles so that people don't rely on one type of specialists in the game. It can be turned or twisted in any way that you like, but the video is not to bring that into the topic. But if I had my opinion in here, I would honestly would have just increased the vehicle spawns by 1 on each side for a heavy tank. And what I think still needs to happen, the AA, well otherwise known as the light vehicles, because it looks like the loadout from what Temporal says, they're going to be sort of like a hybrid of an LAV or an AA, so it's like kind of like almost a utility light vehicle. They need to separate that from the heavy vehicles, so when a team starts the game, they will at least have 2 tanks and maybe an AA and an IFE, versus the potential that they have 4 AAs with no tanks, and they'll basically just get destroyed on the ground. But then once again you could make the argument that then they'll be able to kill the aircraft, and then the aircraft will be killing their tanks. But let's not get into that too much, because we're just here for the ONLYFARMS Friday experience. Now, speaking of the farm, this tunnelway right here is essential in getting huge kill streaks, because if you catch people off guard and you come in through that tunnelway, it's basically choo-choo town, and you will just gobble up all these free kills and send them back to the spawn screen and rinse and repeat. Although, on the flip side, as you're coming out of this tunnel, they could be sitting there waiting for you, and the best thing you can do to counter that is to seat switch and use the proxy scan that you actually have available. Do take note in this build of the game, when you switch back to the driver's seat, it will disappear. So look at your HUD, take a note of how many people are around you, and if they're on the ledges above you, and take note that if there's, you know, too many of them, that maybe it might be too risky to peek them and actually kill any of them because there's just that many of them. If there is, then you can either just go back around and come around the other way, or just wait for them to come to you. You at least have options. See here, I'm trying to repair the tank, taking advantage of what I have at my disposal with my positioning. You do have to take note, as far as the game goes right now, how the repair tool works, it doesn't recall back down after use. So maybe if you're in this position here and you're backed up a little bit, so that it's going to take them time for them to spawn back in and enter the tunnelway and catch up to you. Give it a chance to maybe cool off before jumping back into the tank, so that if you get in a sticky situation, you can quickly jump out, do a little micro repair, get back in, and that's enough for you to take 1 more rocket and kill the person that's trying to push you. I'm not trying to overcommit myself here, because they're constantly spawning back in, and at this point in time, D flag could flip our way, so all I'm trying to do here is simply just rack up some extra kills and cause some damage to the enemy. As you're exiting out of the tunnel and you're trying to cap the flag, this is probably the more tricky flag on this map that is really hard to kind of actually capture, because the spawn points for this flag are actually really well thought out, excluding from the other sea flag that you have to deal with. So that when you come out here, you're going to have to figure out exactly where they're going to pick you from and how many there are very quickly, because if you don't, you're going to be easily sent back to the spawn screen. Now that we have our team pushing up here, I can actually come out of this tunnelway and know that I'm not going to get basically destroyed from behind. So I push on up here, but I'm interrupted by a chopper. Now this is the best part about the tunnel right here. If you get focused like that, you just back on up. And the only way they're going to get you is if they fly stupidly low to the ground and basically are begging for you to kill them. So you have that card up your sleeve as well. Once again, just getting out to repair. I'm a little bit impatient with the whole repair recovery thing, so I decided to gamble it and push on up. We are trying to now push to the other sea flag, which hopefully in a second I'll show you how horrible the spawn points are for this flag. They were not very well thought out, and I hope somehow they're slightly addressed, but we'll see how that goes in the game release. Once again, you can see me backing up here because we actually got flanked. There must have been some late spawners on this flag, and they were actually smart enough to go, you know what, This isn't going to be a win scenario for me, so I'm going to wait to see all the exit frags that I can potentially get, and then make my way back onto the flag. But for this case, I feel like they had a little bit of a grudge to me with the tank, basically trying to destroy them when I was pushing the flag before, and so they very cheekily waited for me to come back out and take the situation into their own hands. But the way I have positioned myself, pulled them back, baited them back into the tunnel, I capitalized on it. Now we're in a bit of a pickle here. As you can see on the bottom left side of the screen, the enemy is actually picking up the pace and pulling back the game here. So I'm trying to figure out where I need to position myself at this point. So I come back out here and try and see what's going on, because nothing frustrates me more than being unable to clear out a flag so that we can push on to the next objective, knowing that we have secured the flag. Now that it does look like we have completed that objective, I decide to go back to D flag. I'm not sure off the top of my head if they do cap D flag. Oh, there we go, speak of the devil. Now we're in a bit of a pickle here, and the reason why is they hold the high traffic zones on this map. Also, each flag that they hold generally has a backup plan to it. So B basically overlooks D, and then they got E flag, which can be rotated from D flag. That whole setup right there is probably the ideal way to win this map, because if you hold your respective gimme flag and you have those flags, it's pretty easy. The reason why C flag's a bit of a meh flag to me is because it's so far from the rest, and you have to travel through a forest or a tunnel or a whole bunch of vegetation. So it's kind of quite isolated, and given that one of the flag spawns is just absolutely horrible, it's a very farmy flag for vehicles, and so much of the infantry don't go there, and because not much of the infantry goes there, there's just not much really going on there. It's just kind of like a diversion area at that point, although it can be a fun flag. Just most of the people are going to be spending most of the time over in these areas, given the unique features of the map. You can see here I'm kind of having a hard time getting outside of this tunnel because they're positioning themselves correctly and trapping me in here. I'm trying to shoot down some of these guys, trying to make their way up to the tower, and hopefully at this point I can get out of here. Once again, there's not much you can do if they're basically camping outside, just with unlimited spawns, revs, and healing and rockets to throw at you. So you kind of have to take your gambles going through this tunnel way, but it's worth the while because of how efficient it is to get from C flag to D flag through this. I'm a little bit cautious here, thinking that there's guys to my left, because I'm not entirely satisfied with how our infantry are pushing up here, and I'm back down to low health and absolutely in focus. So I pop out my smoke, making it hard for them to see me, and get out my repair tool. And as once again, this needs to be fixed because it makes it a lot more easier for you to be an aggressive tanker. And I hold this angle, hoping they're silly enough to come to me, so I get the fair shot and send them back to the spawn screen. Looks like they're wised up, they're not chasing me in here, so I'm just trying to see what's going on. Am I going to clownfish them, come on out and get a couple kills and rinse and repeat, or will I be able to actually get on the flag here? I do see that there is quite the potential for me to get out of here. I used the proxy scan. As you can see, there's about 4 people around me, but in the way they position themselves, it looks like they're not really watching this entrance anymore, and they kind of moved on. So I'm trying to do my best here to get onto the flag, but I'm just completely unsatisfied that I have the support to go with me. As you come out, and I see all the people still waiting, and yeah, I'm getting a bit memed here, I'm not gonna lie. I pull on back and it's like, you know what, I've had enough of this, so I just pull on back. And I'm not going to lie, at this point, I've pretty much given up on winning the game, because at this point, we only hold half a flag, not even a whole flag at this point, so there's not much I can really do. You're only as powerful as the teammates that are around you, and sometimes you have to take those losses into hand. It's one thing that you have to accept when being a gamer. You can be as effective, efficient, talented as you want, but you're one player out of the rest of your team, and if the rest of the team's not playing the objective, they're losing their 1v1s on etc., you're just going to have to accept that you can only do so much, and there's no reason for you to get upset at your other team or yourself or what's going on, because these things just happen and you have to push on forward. Take the small victories that you have and learn from your mistakes, and you will become a better gamer day by day. Now that's a bit too much philosophy for me at 3 AM in the morning. Yes, I am up at 3 AM recording this, so hopefully my video that I covered today was still to your satisfaction. Please leave comments below on things you would like to see in the future, maybe some tips and improvements that you would like to see coming into my channel, or topics that you would like me to cover, because I always will try to expand my channel from here. Anyway, I'm ranting on here, and it's 3 o'clock again, reminding you, and I definitely need to get some sleep now. So I hope you enjoyed OnlyFarms Friday, and I'll catch you in the next video.